watching plays and scores retold. In this podcast the game unfolds. Every try and tackle shared. Legends of the field, none compared. Echoes of cheers, the crowd gets loud. In this audio space, we feel so proud. Pass the word, let the speakers blast. Rugby tales from the present and past. Through the airwaves, our spirits cast. In this rugby love, forever vast.
Guys, let's get into this. Leinster Bulls. I kind of feel sorry for the Bulls to get that loss, and one with merit as well. that was hammering. But now
Yeah.
Jaipai said
Mm.
the depth, he can't compete with that. And Ed has been saying that for, I think, the last more than a year. He's been saying that. And I have to agree now. Something needs to change. We have to either keep our Springboks here, or something must happen, because we can't compete with that money there.
Yeah. I mean, that's yeah, to me, it's actually quite an interesting point, because even just thinking about it, if Snyman was playing, right, like if he was playing for a South African team, very strong chance he'd still be at the Bulls. And even thinking in terms of the Lions, right? Even though like guys are getting closer to retirement and everything, but imagine if we got, all of the active guys from the 2017 campaign back. Because who's still playing? Faf is still playing. Kwak is still playing. Marx is still playing. Franco Mostert is still playing. Am I missing anyone? I mean, you can throw Ruan Ackerman in there as well. Yeah, not sure if I've left anyone out, but even just those 5 players. Oh, actually, yeah, Lawrence Erasmus, who's playing in Japan as well.
Sun is still playing.
Yeah, Skosan's still playing as well. Literally, if we got the guys, especially the guys, if we were like, okay, let's bring them back in. Something to remember is that at one, if you look at the Lions team sheets from back then, you look and majority of those guys ended up as box. So that's the sort of quality we would have if we got even some of those guys back in. So, yeah, I don't know. I think about it, and if South African teams had, all the top South African players available to them, definitely, the Irish teams would probably end up battling. And you'd see us do a lot better in Champions Cup and Challenge Cup, which is why, I think I brought up the last time, a friend of mine mentioned that in an ideal scenario, we wouldn't be playing URC. We'd have Currie Cup as our top competition, and then it's like, top 4 of the Currie Cup end up in Champions Cup, and the next 4 end up in Challenge Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's bad, man, because if you take Ireland as a nation, they're a small rugby nation compared to us. If you take their schoolboys, everything, they're not supposed to have that depth. But now they're pulling New Zealanders and all other nations because they have the money for it. That's why I still say to get caps on the teams, I think that would be the best thing to do. Just to level things up, because now at the moment we're out of our depth. Yes, we can take our Springboks back, but look at the Sharks with all their Springboks. With the Bulls with all their Springboks, with the Stormers with their Springboks. Not counting the Lions, because we only have like 3 or 4, even one uncapped. But still, if you take the overseas, I think Elias or somebody mentioned on the group, 17 of the Bok group is international players.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing with that, and I understand what Jake was saying, and I agree with him. That we don't have the depth because, like we're saying now, a lot of the guys are overseas. But then he must also understand we can't compete as the Lions or the Cheetahs. We can't compete with the Bulls or the Sharks
Yeah.
with regard to their budget. And on the other hand, also Jake White contradicts himself a lot because, I mean, the last 2 years he's been buying players more than the Sharks have been buying players. Just to get a guy like Pollard back now with a huge amount of money that they're going to have to be paying for him. Obviously, when he gets to South Africa, he's got the same luxury as a Siya Kolisi, and even it's a bit where they can have their own commercial rights, so they've got they can be in ads and all those things, and that's why I already see that Pollard is in one of the ads that's in South Africa. So in that sense, they get a lot of money. But now, how do you feel about? I mean, how does he think we feel about our budget compared to their budget? I mean, he still buys
Yeah.
a crap load of people, and he's even, and I'm sure a guy like Jan Sarfontein that they're also getting back now. Although I think that he's way over his time, but I mean, those guys aren't cheap, that he's buying at the moment. So
Yeah.
Next would be Jesse Creel as well. Then we're going back
Well,
with the Bull,
you see,
Safontaine, and Creel.
that wouldn't actually surprise me. And it's actually kind of scary when you think about it, because if we want to look at depth, right? And I'm thinking about it now. It's unfortunate that Butter Chamberlain hasn't quite fired for them, but that would mean at fly half they would have Pollard, Goosen, Butter Chamberlain, and then Keegan Johannes. Those are 4 all very solid options. You have one who has got like how much Bok experience, another who also has Bok caps for and also has played in all over the world. You have who did I say was number 3? I've forgotten who was number 3 before Keegan Johannes. Oh, Butter Chamberlain. You have Butter Chamberlain, who is like the young up and comer, along with Keegan Johannes. Keegan Johannes and Butter Chamberlain working with those two already will help them upskill quite nicely. And it's weird where the team that's able to do that is like, oh, we don't have the depth. We don't have the depth to compete. But I think one of the things that comes in here as well is that Ireland, much as they have a smaller population, etc., and smaller rugby playing population, they do only have 4 teams. And when you look at the academies and things as well, like every season you'll see like they release a stack of players who probably have never heard of. Now, think of if we were able to do that. Like, say we were able to have, like back in the days of the Cats, right? I think even as that tapered off, the Lions still were able to draw from the likes of the Pumas, and the Bulls drew from Falca for some odd reason. Not sure what the reason was there, but we could draw from like Pumas and Griffins. Like say if we got told, okay, you know what, guys, as the Lions, you have your core team, but as your academy, Griquas, for example, that would be massive. Because how many guys have we said from the Greek where it's like, oh, actually, this is a guy who, could do some good business, etc., etc. That'd be grand. Or if we had the Cheetahs essentially as that's essentially what the Irish teams have. And thing to remember with that is one of them has the bulk of that, and that's Leinster. The other three actually tend to not be so happy with Leinster because Leinster has share of the Irish team, and and still they will go and buy in international play.
Yeah, not only that, Moya, out of the British and Irish Lions, how many players will come from Leinster? Only Leinster. So they're successful. We can't take that away from them. And the first time that they took the URC serious this year, they showed us what they can do. They demolished Glasgow and did the same with the Bulls.
I keep saying, and widen our pool, broaden the pool just to say that, okay, so each team, I think there's a cap of, 49 or 50 players or 51 players that each province is allowed to have. Obviously, the Pumas and Griquas and those teams aren't even close to that. I think maybe they've got 17, 18 contracted players, and the other guys are, on literally on monthly salaries, or game fees that they get. But a team like the Lions have got most probably about, let's say, 28, 29 top players. And then we've got a bunch of other 20 players that we're also contracting, which is not a bad thing, obviously, for the future. But when you get to a professional era, it doesn't always work, especially in the URC. So that's what I'm saying. Let's get the players like from the Pumas and the Cheetahs and those guys and negotiate with them to say that we've got, like the Boks are doing, you've got a big group of players, say 50 or 60 players, and you just make that list until you get about 30 players. Then you might have 2 or 3 players from Griquas or the Pumas that will be in the Lions setup. Obviously, I don't think the Sharks need it at this stage, and I don't think the Bulls definitely don't need it. And I also don't think really that the province need it at this stage because they've got
they
a
don't.
huge amount of funds in the Cape, and the whole Cape set up with their schools and everything. But I think a team like the Lions, that will just that could only benefit us.
Yeah,
And they work for us. If you take guys like Howard Munisi, guys like Watermeyer, some of those Pumas and Griquas guys, they do slot in nicely with us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And you know what? A part of me also feels like, although look, it might not sit well with some players, but you can also do almost like player exchanges. Thinking now, for example, look, I know where it is he's been struggling with injuries and that, but we haven't really seen Xander du Plessis so much since we've signed him. Now, my thing is, okay, fine. If we aren't really using him, can we say to either Pumas, it's like, hey, listen, we're like, say with the guy Winilla, we could listen. We're wanting to use the better. In the meantime, hey, you guys have got SA Cup coming up. Here's Xander du Plessis. Or those sorts of things where it can be reciprocated a bit because you want the other union being like, well, okay, they the honor of saying, hey, you know what, we built up these players that the Lions just took.
Yeah, and I keep on saying, that just like we were talking now, that the Irish have the top four teams, like you were saying, Moya. They have the top 4 teams, and they only have 4 teams. So they've got the best players available for those 4 teams. We don't. Okay, but besides the Boks that are playing overseas, I still feel there's a huge amount of talent, let's say 20 to 30%, that just gets lost in the system because they're not in the URC playing teams,
Yes.
and
Yes.
again, it will benefit us a lot, especially a team like the Lions, definitely.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Even if we kept the teams the way they were, if we compete with other teams, because that's the thing, Ireland has money. and still they'll lose one or two people to the likes of France, but generally they can retain their players and then still bring people in. You know,
Mhm.
to compete where we, what, like, oh, this player wants to go overseas. Yeah, actually, no. But I will also say, in terms of player welfare, uh, the likes of Quacker, Marks, and Mostert, I'm actually kind of happy that they are playing in Japan, just because with how much contact they put their bodies through, I don't think it would be in their best interest health-wise to be used for URC. Because imagine we had them available to us. Even with mandatory like block rest periods and that type of thing, best believe we would be put to the ground and then do national duty.
That's why I
Yeah,
always say I'm a lion before I'm a bok. For me, it's good
Yeah.
to not have so many Springboks coming out of the Lions, because that doesn't disrupt for training camps. You don't have that player available. For this test, you don't have that player available. So it's nice to brag and say, listen, we have 5 Springboks this season. But on the other flip coin, it's not so good as well.
I remember
Yeah.
those years. Francois, that's also on the other group. Niels. He was good friends with Jock Fourie years ago, through their wives and so forth. And I remember speaking to Jock Fourie those years and, leaving the Lions because he's a big Lions guy. And then he went to Province and he said he just wants to go to a team that's winning a bit more. So I think that
Mm,
also drives the guys away. So if you don't win or you're not competing too much, I think it's also not nice for the guys to lose, week in and week out. And talking about a guy like Eto'o Vermeer that's shopping between the teams and so forth. But I think guys like that, or they also just want to go to a team where they actually win a bit more. So
mm.
I think bottom line is we just have to start keeping the guys, and the guys must just be happier. It's always much better to win than to lose. Let's be honest. For yourself and your for any development of a player.
Yeah.
And with that regard, then the
Absolutely.
coaching staff must change as well. Because, yeah, the time is up. There needs to come a change. Some type of change needs to come. I don't think it's the players themselves. Look what Ackerman and Swester Brain did. The morale was down. We were out in the gutters. Yeah, it took 2 years before results started to come, but it eventually came. I don't see the way our coaching staff handles things now that we're going to be on that build up. It's either going to be average or it's going to go worse. I don't see things going up. Even if you buy the best players, they still have to get coached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, exhausted the whole thing about the whole theory about the coaching now, and I said it a few years back that Cash is out of his depth. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Again, I've said it previously, but keep him in the setup, conditioning, or something like that. Also, with regards to a guy like Ackerman, it doesn't sound like there's any. I don't hear anything that he's also, pinpointing that he might look at green, other options than the box under 20s at this stage. It doesn't look like he's got a fixed contract there. Um, so that might be something, but I don't see Ackerman really coming as a coach to the Lions. The one positive thing with regard to the coaching that there might be a possibility because Heineke Meyer, and I always try and search what the guys are saying, and
Mm-hmm.
but Heineke Meyer hasn't said anything yet, to say I'm not interested, or they haven't approached me, or they've approached me, or anything. So he's very quiet about the whole situation. So that might be a positive sign. I hope it's a positive
Mm.
sign. Um, and I hope that there is, stuff happening behind closed doors. I think Cash might not even know. that there is a possibility of him leaving. I think obviously with the Curry Cup catch, cash will still be there because I didn't hear anything. When the other side did they say that Nkosi is going to be the Curry Cup coach? I'm also not up to date with that because usually he would take over the Curry Cup duties. So they haven't also said that Cash van Rooyen and Jacques Fourie are our Curry Cup coaches. I mean, at this stage, I think Cash is there with the warm-ups, with the practices. He's still there, if I'm correct. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see if there will be a coach available there.
Is it not going to be like last year with Nkosi doing the under-20s and then the Curry Cup and then that last few games, Ivan slotted in? Not maybe going to be like something like that again?
Yeah, because I
Can be.
think because I noticed that where they had, like, Cash was in the box, but you get that feeling that he was, in a sense, like kind of being a director of rugby sort of thing, not so much, fully actively coaching, but kind of, occasionally giving his input and sort of, I suppose making sure there was cohesion between doing and the Curry Cup we'd expect from the guys in URC. But yeah, I do wonder, like, and I think that's one thing that scares me, like, is it'll be great if things go the way they in terms of like, you know what, and it's like the good old days. But, and you can ask Wales about this, sometimes going back takes you backward. And I know, I know we're saying we're not in the best of places at the moment. It could be a lot, one, but two, the worry is that there, it was lightning in a bottle. It was a lot of things that came together so very well.
Yeah.
And, one thing that I wonder about as well, I need to try find the player lists, would be who we got rid of and who we brought in as Ackerman and Suez took over. Weirdness, and it's something that I think we do also have to be for, is say we bring in a new coach, whoever said new coach is, will very likely do what most new coaches do. Maybe in the first season, they'll work with who's there. They're going to start saying, look, I want, I don't need this person, this person, this, and let's get this person in. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. But, we do also have to be prepped. And it's where, I know as people, like, it's a natural thing of our favorite players, etc. But I think it is one of those where, like, we have to be prepared for, new coach potentially saying, actually, you know what? Nah, I know guy is held as this. This is the guy I would rather back because, if I tell him to run through a brick wall, he'll run through two.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many rumors going around with regard to the coaches. Some say that Jacques Fourie might just be taking over, which won't be a bad thing, but I think that also just, budget constraints more likely. I also don't think that it's
but so he hasn't.
He has, yeah, that definitely hasn't coached much. And the other thing about Jacques Fourie, well, and I've got a huge respect for him, and because he's a brilliant business guy, but he's got a lot of businesses going on, and that's why he's so rich. I mean, if you a full-on coach, you've got more stress, more this and that. So I also don't know if Jacques Fourie will take over. Just to increase his salary by 20 or 30 grand a month, which is obviously not enough for him in his terms. will he actually do that? It will be more for the pride and the love of the Lions if he does do that, But there was even sources saying that Franz Ludiker, they talking to Franz Ludiker. That there's so
Yeah,
many rumors going
I
around.
heard that. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, and I also don't know how much a sponsor has a say in. It's not an investor; it's a sponsor. I don't know how much a sponsor will have to have a say in who the coaches will be. And we were talking the other night, Moya, when we were saying, and we were still laughing about it, about Cherry. What are the guys at Cherry
Yeah.
going to worry about who the coaches are? As long as they win and they can, expose their brand a bit more, or get more exposure to their brand.
Mhm.
I'm not going
Yeah.
to be worrying about coaches.
I just want
Yeah.
to come back
Exactly.
quickly to Johan Ackerman. And I know I'm going to be crucified for this. But most Lions supporters think that
Mhm.
Ackerman will come and fix everything. And to think that you think out of, you leave the whole perspective there. Because he had Bart Schoeman, he had Kevin de
Yep.
Klerk, he had Swayze the
Yep.
Brain, he had JP Ferreira.
Yep. Yep.
What would Ackerman do coming into this coaching staff that we have now?
Mm.
That's why I say, let's leave Ackerman with the good memories that we had of him. Let him do whatever he does with the Bokke. Um,
Mhm.
but I will still give Heineke Meyer. I think that is our best bet to get Heineke Meyer.
I
Yeah.
agree there. And also with regards to Ackerman, let's be honest, the URC setup with professionalism is just much bigger than Super Rugby. Much more money involved, much more exposure, and again, the professional setup with the URC is way ahead of Super Rugby. Although I'm not taking anything away about Super Rugby, about the coaches and about the players and the style of rugby. It's awesome to watch, and I love Super Rugby.
At
But
least he
it's
was a
too
bit with
different.
the Cherry Blossoms. He was a
Mm.
bit there with Gloucester, but couldn't have the
Yeah,
results that he had with Super Rugby.
yeah. Neither did
He
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 now
did
in
he
the
did help
city.
them improve. Yeah, but he said that's a big thing, right? And that's what I agree with you, Niels. Is that and it's why I said lightning in a bottle, because at the time he had Swayze, he had Bart Schoeman doing recruitment, he had JP Ferreira doing defense, etc., etc. He went to Gloucester. He helped them improve, yes, and I think that is a big statement. He went to Japan. He helped the team even get to. Then he moved teams. That team, to my knowledge, hasn't really done that. And I think that's kind of where you sit and it's like, okay, yeah, you can make the strong argument for like he's good. I get the feeling his man management is his big strength, but you also get that feeling of part of why he worked so well was JP Ferreira has been great. I mean, this is the same JP Ferreira who now helped Bath win the Premiership, and the Challenge Cup. That very same JP Ferreira of Bath, that's JP Ferreira. He had Swayze to play, master tactician there. All these people kind of fell into place where it's like, oh, okay, you know what?
Mm.
It's not to say he wasn't involved in the tactical aspect of things, but he can be the best man he can be because he's working with guys. Now, if you can't recreate that, the worry is, will things actually change? Um,
Exactly,
uh,
exactly, Moya.
yeah, and I said last week, week before, when Heineke Meyer was brought up, his attack coach when he was Bok coach was Ricardo Loubser. Ricardo Loubser we have as our attack. You know what? At least he can come in and be like, hey, look, there's someone I've
They can go
worked
back.
with previously. Exactly.
They can get the old. They can get the old playbooks out.
Exactly
Yeah,
that.
yeah. If our budget, look, obviously, I'd love Ackerman or Meyer or anybody at this stage really to, change as to happen. But even if you just do a swap, and then let's say we don't get a coach and nobody's going to settle for the amount of money that they've been offered or whatever the case may be. Let's just do some changes in the whole line setup because I still think Joffrey is there, and like you were saying now, Ricardo Lapso can also become, more senior, prominent role there, because you don't really always hear him speak too much. And I still say I like Julian Reddinghuis, what he's achieved with our scrums since and he was a young guy, when he stopped playing rugby through his injury,
Yeah.
and he just developed, and that's one thing I can really say that there was in all the past 7, 8, 9 years. Our scrums have never gone backwards, not even
Mm.
even one little bit. Everybody that he buys or gets developed a lot there. I mean, if you just look at Tlabakanya, I mean, how just 2, 3 years ago, he was just bulldozing the guys, but he wasn't so strong in the scrums. Check out his scrums now; he's a monster in the scrums at this stage.
Yeah.
And definitely Tracy
No,
must
true.
go. Tracy must fall. She can go back, and we must swallow her pride and get Bas Kuman back. That guy never brought any person to the union that didn't deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly it. It's like, our talent acquisition can't, I think it's that can't say like, okay, we're going to have a person be CEO, director of rugby, and talent scout, or that type. Like, no, you can't have those sorts of things like where you're talent scout and agreed. Skuman really had an eye for talent. Now, the thing that worries me is I saw his comment on something that seemed to be plans where he was like, if you if you have like a contradictory opinion, or opinion like to the higher ups, yourself out of a contract. Now, if he meant that like very literally, it is one side of the story. So we don't know what the agreement was on, etc., etc. I'm not sure then if he would come. The hope here, I suppose, probably won't dictate what we use. They'll say like, okay, here, and they might give some KPIs on like yeah, we want you to reach playoffs. We want this because again, it's good for the brand. If you're up until the final, your brand exposure stops when the pool stage stops. Not so great, but I do wonder actually what if it is Cherry, like what they're saying to the union in terms of can they actually dictate to say we want an experience, or can they, we're giving you all money, however what we're expecting is within 2 years we need you to do the following. If not, no, we're probably not going to renew.
Yeah, make terms and condition on your sponsorship. That will help a lot because how long was Emirates the sponsor at Ellis Park
10
or at the Lions?
10 years.
10 years, yeah. And maybe Cherry will come and say, listen, yeah, there's a possibility of an extension also for a 10-year period. But if they don't, have results within the next 3 years, we've got a clause in our contract that we can, buy ourselves out or just cancel the contract, something like that. That
Yeah.
might be a good option, I think.
And
Yeah.
get clauses in the contract of the players for injury. So we don't get someone like Goosen. That guy maybe he's the best at getting a contract and not actually playing a minute of rugby. Johan
Yeah.
Person.
Yeah. How they got that right to keep Chris and still to afford a guy like Pollard. And like you were saying just now, the other two flowers of Buta and Johannes. I mean, wow, that's a luxury to have, a huge luxury to have.
Come to think of that, how do you guys feel about George Whitehead? For me,
Yeah.
the guy is not well, but he's there for how many years doing the same thing over and over. He's reliable. How
Winning
can no
games,
other
champions.
union
Yeah,
snatch it up?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I stem 100% saam met jou daar. So Whitehead is very underrated, very, very, very much underrated. Again, a guy that we could have brought into our pools, either in all the provinces, even as a lone player. I'm again a huge fan of lone players. And Whitehead, I mean, look at his goal kicking. How many goals he's kicked over and winning games throughout the years wherever he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's running, his defense, his everything. I mean, he was Griekwas for how many years?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Him alone, him and Clinton Swart, they were Griekwas.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking as well, if you'd um, thinking now, say we brought in, and oddly enough, we had them on loan and we didn't use them, but like say we brought in Tinnis De Beer and we brought in George Whitehead. Like those are guys who legitimately, like they've done so well for the smaller teams and that, and you have to ask, like, in some ways, what's that could happen? Which is another thing for us to have to ponder, right? Because put it this way, I don't think, for example, like, hey, let's get this person. What's the worst that could happen? They're like, hey, we're getting Hunt because, you know, to help us
Has
do blah,
been.
blah,
Has
blah.
been.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. You know, but also, I mean, you can imagine now coming up to next season, say like, okay, we have Pollard, we have Billy LaRue, right? And then you can have Hussen on the bench, and he can cover 10, depends on what you need, you know. So yeah, it's, I suppose it's different, and given our financial standing, our best option is to look at some of these players and say like, hey, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe we should, you know. Like, look, I know a lot of people are like, Bulls got Jean-Andre Rudolph, we should have gotten him. Jean-Andre Rudolph, unfortunately, is a walking yellow card. The hope
Exactly.
is,
Yeah.
the hope for him and for the Bulls is that they'll help him with the discipline, because, like, look, he gives 110, and that's a beautiful thing. But now you can imagine if we have him on and we have Ruben Skuman on, who sometimes gets cards. You know, that becomes a dangerous combo, or it becomes a dangerous combo, depending
But
on
maybe,
how the game
maybe,
goes.
maybe he can tame himself. Remember Jasper Wiese a couple of years ago? The
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing. But he
yeah.
learned to tame himself, so maybe he can be tamed.
Mm,
Definitely not at the Cheetahs, because he was running wild there. Uh,
mm,
but Tinus de Beer, I'm so glad you mentioned him as well. And that's what I'm asking. Why the Cheetahs? Why don't they buy either all alone Tinus de Beer or George Whitehead? Because they have a problem at 10. Since Ron Pinar left, they have a problem at 10.
mm. Well, but they've gotten in Tion Swanepoel now as
Yeah,
the
now at
solution
least,
to
yes.
that.
Yes,
Mm.
yes, now. But I mean, the previous season and the season before that, since
Yeah,
Ron Pinar left for the last 2 seasons, yeah, the last 2 seasons was not so good for them.
yeah, and I look at it like, guys, you have you have that option of getting, like, George Whitehead, even if he's well settled in Kimberley, it's not that far from Bloom. I also don't think he would turn down the opportunity now to be able to play in Europe in the Challenge Cup and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd want to say, you definitely should, um, you know, should give those opportunities to some of those guys so that they're able to, to sink or swim, really, and show what they can do. Um, yeah, because at the moment, in some ways, the sad thing is you look at how Cheetahs did a sort of exchange with Ospreys, and now Ospreys have General Kasende, they have Evaldi Bosov, and I think there's a third guy who remained at Ospreys. And I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I mean, in some ways, good for those guys. They're now probably making a lot more money. But not gonna lie, we could have used a Dan Kasende. We could have used a Vadi Bosov. It's a pity that we can't have those arrangements with the guys and be like, actually, you know what? Yeah, these are guys who can strengthen our cause. And in return, also, we can be like, yeah, look, here's a couple of our guys for SA Cup and for Challenge Cup, where they also know that when they're in Challenge Cup, they're not sitting in dire straits if they pick up, one or two injuries.
Yeah, you can give me Victor Sekekete and you can give me Cohen Jasper any time of the day. I will take them.
Well, exactly, and Victor Sekekete would be coming back to us. That for me is quite a big thing. Because I remember when he played for us, he was a lot, I think he was early 20s and he was like a lot smaller than that. But, you look at the player he's become and it's like, oh, guys, here's someone who, we should be trying to get back in. If we're like, oh, we need an experienced lock or that type of thing, like, yeah, bring him back in.
Yeah, he was much like Emmanuel Suzuka. Played off the bench. And what was the other flank that we also hardly played? Can't think of him now, man. What was his name? We used him like he was just there to fill the numbers. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember now. What was his name? He was a man of color.
Not Fabian Boyson.
No.
No.
After Fabian, like 2-3 years ago. When I get the name, I'll say it. But guys, I'm looking forward to our team sheets. Let's do our team sheets.
Yes.
Are we gonna do one person goes the whole 23, or are you gonna give each a turn for each position?
I think we can discuss positions.
Okay, let's do that. Elias, is jy reg met jou blaadjie?
Yes.
Okay, so on number 1, I have Morgan Odia. He had a huge Curry Cup last year. You guys remember that try of his as well. So yeah, and he didn't play much URC, so I'll give him the nod for a Curry Cup.
Okay.
And sorry, Niels, just to chip in there. This is obviously our own personal choices, or the way that the coaches will do it, or the way that we think that coaches will do it, or it's our own personal choices. That's what we decided. Am I right?
That's our own personal choice, Elias. That's how you want to balance the URC with the under 20s with everything together.
Yeah, and obviously we're with player management and everything, considering everything like that as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you can go, Moya.
Yeah, I was going to say Nordia as well, and have him backed up primarily by Sebastian Lombard, just so that we can get a feel of Sebastian Lombard. We can keep Kotze in the mix, and we definitely should. But I would say like maybe rotate Nordia and Kotze and have Lombard play as many games as possible so we can get used to him.
Joune, Elias?
Yeah, I will also, yeah, put Lombard there. I didn't put in Skuman at this stage because, other props because Skuman, for me, is like 33 years old. I'm sure he's still going to be in the Curry Cup mix. But yeah, I'll also go Nidia there. Asia Kotza is also a great choice for a hooker as well. Remember, he can play hooker as well, but
Oh, really?
primarily, yeah, he's been used as a prop. But Asia Kotza is also a hooker. I just don't know how secure his line-out throws will be. You know.
Are we doing reserves as well at the same time? Are we
Yeah.
going for 1 to 23, or are we, say, 1 and replaced with this?
I mean,
Maybe.
there. Sorry, I just threw in my replacement because I was like, like while on the topic.
No, that's good, boy. I just want to make sure. Okay, hooker. I have Monet Brandon because, didn't play URC. PJ Buerta, Pesaki play too much. So give them a rest. Monet Brandon hasn't shaped yet as a hooker, either on Curry Cup level or any level. So I would give him the game time and just develop.
I will go with Saki because I feel that he was also injured for quite a while, and then the last few games they used him a lot in the URC. I also think that his lineouts have improved a bit, throughout the series. But yeah, it's actually a position that I think that we can really go and buy some more depth in that. But I'll go with Fasaki just to make a long story short.
That was my head scratcher as well, Elias, because of my 23. There's no captain there. I was head scratching about Pesaki so we can make him captain like last year in the Curry Cup. To leave him out, I don't have a captain. In my whole 23, I can't say who I would make captain. So just in advance, don't ask me who's going to be captain. There's no captain.
Yeah.
That was one of my worries there as well. Was I left out Fasaki, but I'm like, well, look, if he's not there, who do we have as captain? Especially because we're not playing. Sorry, I'm going to jump the gun slightly here. Because we're not playing Nico Stain. Because otherwise you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, make Nico Stain captain. I'm like, no, so that's not happening. You know what? I do have a contender in mind. I actually do have a contender in mind for captain. I just am not 100% sure if he's captained before. I seem to remember he has at junior level, but I do have a contender.
My best will be Steenekamp. Out of my 23.
Considering he's quite an experienced player, yeah.
Yeah, I'm jumping the gun a bit. Number 3 will be Paulman for me. I mean, that guy is so ox, but he hasn't played a lot of games for us.
Yeah. Also, look, I will say the games I saw of him at Tighthead, he wasn't dominant yet, but the hope is that he's been working on that, and it's a matter of time. You know what I mean? Like he is only 21, 22, so
yeah, he's loose and tighthead, ne? He's loose and tighthead.
He is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've also got Pullman. The reason why he was a great youngster, he's been coming through the ranks for the Lions for a long time, and he was a great scrummager, with the under 20s and under 21s teams for the Lions. I do feel, and he's very good in the loose. I also saw him, but yeah, like you said, he didn't play a lot for us. But I think, considering player management and the depth and so forth, I'll also go with Coleman at this stage, definitely for me.
Yeah.
Then the two locks I have is Oosthuizen and Delport. Oosthuizen, if he's fit, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Delport. Reason being, I mean, Noordnagel, Ruben Schoeman, Darian Landsberg, the list goes on. That guy's played too much URC.
Yeah.
I
I
went.
mean,
Sorry.
no, go for it. Go for it.
I went for Skuman on that one because 4 and 5 Skuman and Delport. So I've got the same as you with Delport there. I took Skuman because I hear you saying that he's been playing a lot. I don't really think he's really played so much because also he's quite injury prone. So I'll also take him because I just feel that he hasn't played a lot of rugby. Um, we've been swapping and changing a lot with the locks. And I said it the other night that I feel that with our powerhouse with the engine room, we don't have enough guys. But I'll go with Skuman on that one. And I also like Westhuizen. I must say, big, strong, gets over the advantage line, gives away a few penalties. He can also shove the guy around and push the guys around. I feel that a lock has to be that, type of a macho guy, and he
A
is that.
Bucky.
Yeah, Bucky's a Eben and a Ergian and those type of guys. But yeah, I like Westhuizen also, but I went with Skuman on this one.
So
Then
I thought if Oosthuizen is not ready, then I would go with Slobom, who's coming in from Griquas. Although his younger brother plays for under 21s, so and I think his younger brother plays 5 lock. So that would be interesting if one day we have them as 4 and 5. That's it. I was going to go with him and Delport. If Oosthuizen is available, then I'd have Oosthuizen there. And I think, in some ways, in terms of the depth building, right, we can say we've got Skuman and Landsberg. That's one combo. And you know what? You can either say it's Ruben. It's Ruben Skuman, it's Landsberg, and it's North Knuckle. You can put either Landsberg or North Knuckle with Ruben Skuman. We know that works fine. I would also want, if Roots is available, throw him in maybe off the bench, so that you want that. You want Oosthuizen, Delport, and Roots to all work together. That's our other 3. Like in terms of building depth, I think that would be a way forward. And then, someone like Slobom is new, but we can build him in. But going off, I'm not sure when Oosthuizen's available. I said Slobom and Delport.
okay, guys. Blind side and open side flankers. I know the blind side. I think we all have Ranger since he's been released from the box and hasn't played much URC. So I think we can put him there. I think all of you have Ranger there, ne?
Well, I had Steenkamp because, at the time, I was like, if Renzo's not available, and Kearns has played a lot of URC, so I was like, okay, I'll shift Steenkamp to there.
Okay,
I've also got Renzo because he hasn't been playing a lot, and obviously he's been released. So I definitely think, and I also think Rassi will want him to play in the Curry Cup. But if there's any injuries, Renzo can always come in. I don't like Steenkamp so much because since he's been playing from us, from the Bulls, he hasn't really shaped. And I was one of the guys that I was quite excited about him, but yeah, he hasn't really convinced me at this stage. But yeah, maybe for the depth, it might be. Yeah.
I'm backing him up on 7 because I need a captain. Number 1, probably him, and then number 2, is because at least it's going to be Curry Cup.
Yeah.
So it's not URC. So let's see how he does in Curry Cup. Because I'm not going to put him in a URC team now, anytime soon. Like
Yeah.
Elias said, he must deliver before he can get that honors.
Yeah.
Who do you guys have on open side?
So initially I put Kwama, but look, if Renzo's back and he's at 6, Kwama has played a lot of URC. And I think we know what we're getting from him already. So then I would then probably put Steenkamp there.
I went for Venter. I also feel that Venter, he played a lot at one stage and then he was injured, played again injured. So I don't think he's played too much. Um, yeah, so I'd still go with Venter because we need the bulk there. And then I'll also go with Kuma as my backup there. I like Kuma a lot. If Venter is still injured, I will get Kuma in my team. No doubt
Yeah.
about it. He's a very good player. I like him a lot. It's very, very consistent player.
Dit was vir my
Yes.
moeilik om Ron Venter nie in te sit nie en ook nie vir Henko nie. Dit is vir my bitter moeilik.
Yeah.
Scrum off. Oh, sorry. Iceman. I
Mm.
have Ace Raisin.
Yeah,
Because-
Estreisen.
Yeah, few URC, but the ones he played, he looked good.
Yeah, man just needs to stay healthy. That's the problem.
Yeah, because he's so quite injury prone.
Yeah.
I would go there with Kearns. Also, yeah, he might have played a bit of a lot of rugby, but I put him in there for his. He's actually he can captain a team, so that's
That
why.
too. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
That's a
only
good
thing
point.
that got me, that because all of the players that had a lot of game time at the URC, that's why I had to leave him out.
Mm.
Because basically, the whole point of this is for my stance, is I can leave these players and go to URC. This is like a Curry Cup team for me. I don't want too much blend of URC into this. Because you guys remember we said we need a Curry Cup team, we need a URC team, and we need a Challenge Cup team.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also again, just to get back on the Curry Cup and the URC guys, a lot of the URC, let's say the second round or within the second game in the second round, all the BOC players and the URC guys will be, basically back. Or 80 or 90% of them will be able to play in the Curry Cup. I just don't know what are the rules. How many games should a guy play Curry Cup again? He had to have played 1 or 2 games before he can go into the semifinals or the finals. I think there's also a rule like that. So it's also a thing that we can just check up on. What will the rules be with regard to that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Especially
interesting.
because it seems like the Curry Cup is 7 games and then the playoffs. So that's 9 altogether. Which, in some ways is so few. You get the feeling that coaches might be like, well, look, you know what? Actually, we can manage if we do that, especially like getting closer to the business end, be like, okay, we're using these as our warm-ups because we're not going to have warm-ups because URC starts on 28th or 28th September, and Curry Cup finishes 20th September.
Yeah. No, no, that's what they always do, and that's what most of the big coaches will also require. For the guy to play, like a Jake White will tell the Curry Cup coach, okay, put in this player or put in that player. So yeah, it will definitely be a factor later on.
Yeah.
On Scrum Off, I have Leighton on.
Yep.
Because play too much URC, Krappies won't be available.
Uh-huh.
And if he does, he also played too much. So
Mm.
I can't think of a better 9 otherwise than Leighton
Yeah.
Horn.
Yeah. Leighton Horn, and then backed up by Hashim Peed, who is our under 21 and a baby buck. So
Yeah.
I went for Steyn. I think there's going to be no doubt that Steyn will be in the. According to me, I can be wrong. We'll probably wait and see. I think that they will keep Steyn as the number 9 there. I also put in Pete there because I like Pete. Also from the juniors and the junior box. He's a very good player from the province. I think he was in Bishops or something. A very good player. I like him a lot. So yeah, I would give him a shot on the bench at least.
At fly off, that was the most difficult position for me to choose from. When it comes to the bench, it will make more sense. Why I went for the Dobela.
yeah.
Coming from the
Same.
frequency, I think he had 2 or 3 URC games coming off the bench.
Mhm.
We haven't seen him. The best we saw, he's good. So I'll give him the nod for Curry Cup.
Yeah.
Tubella's gonna do very well in the Curry Cup. It's his type of style, running rugby, secure kicking. His defense isn't too bad. Although in Curry Cup, you obviously focus more on the attacking. So I think definitely for me, Tubella will be a great choice. Although I was a big fan of, I'm still a big fan of Kate Bolita. I just think that when we bought him, he was a guy on the injury list, just like we buying Cater now, which is also a brilliant player, but we're also buying the guys when they are injured. So I'll go with the Bella on that one for sure.
On left wing, I cheated a bit. I made a note here. I put in Davis, coming fresh from the Stormers. Yes, he played a lot of URC. But that's just because I don't know if Cater will be ready to play. So I wrote here for myself, Davis, later replaced by Cater. So we can get both of them game fit before the URC strikes us.
Yeah. Because I think it's sounding like Cater has passed medicals and that, so it is sounding like he'll be available for Curry Cup. But, I mean, I'm not sure if they mean for all of Curry Cup or he'll be available during the Curry Cup. But, yeah, I put Cater as my 11 and Davids as my 14.
Yeah, I've got David as my 11. I'll go with David because I know they want to get him in the mix immediately. Maybe they'll rest him a few games, during the Curry Cup, but they definitely going to have Davids there. And I've got Rubs. I put him in there because he's one of my favorite players, and he hasn't been playing for a long time now. I don't know if he's still going to be injured. Maybe you guys can help me on that because otherwise, I can't put him in. But I didn't check if he's not going to be available for the Curry Cup. I'm not sure myself.
Yeah.
But if he's
I'm al-
available,
Yeah.
clear him.
I'm also not sure, Elias. That's why I left him out because we don't hear anything about his injury, when he's expected back or anything. There's like no news of Raps. Probably the next thing we're going to hear about Raps is that he left us for somebody else.
Oh, goodness. No, please don't. I like him a lot.
That's
Well,
usually what happens. That's usually what happens when a player don't play and you don't hear anything. I'm going to take the clock back to MJ Pels. The same thing happened with him. The same thing. He had an injury. He was expected like 3 weeks or 4 weeks back. Never played again. And then the next time we heard of him was he's going.
Yeah.
Okay, where were we? Right wing. On my right wing, I had Mpeku, Kelly Mpeku, because I asked the question, where are we going to fit this guy in? He's
Yeah.
good, but it's like he's the second or third choice in every position, either he's center or at wing. But if Keita was fine, just Keita and Davis would be a mean wing combination for me.
Yeah.
At
No,
least we have some victory on the wings this year. With the guys, if Rob stay, we've got Davids now and Keita there. Okay, we're losing Etwell, but I feel that we quite sorted. Compared to other teams, I think it's one of the positions that I don't think we have to worry too much about. I think we covered there.
Yeah. Then
yeah, no, exactly.
centers, I have Jonker and Cronje simply because of last Curry Cup season. They played everything on fire. So
Yeah.
I'm going with that. Let history repeat itself.
So I made a brave call and I said Mills and Yonker. Mills would be my captain.
I
But
Yeah.
that's me. That's if I'm remembering correctly that he's captained under 21s before for a bit.
Yeah, he has. I also went. I went like Niels. I went for a Jonker and Cronje, and I've got Moles also there in the mix. If it comes to the captain, I would also rather put in Moles there. But I also think that Jonker, this Curry Cup, he's not one of the most team-like players. He plays a lot for himself, and again in the Curry Cup, it's open running rugby. And there, he can be a bit stingy with the ball. He can try and score tries there and just go for the try line. He's a brilliant Curry Cup player, and also like him in the URC. But I think this will just fit him very well. And I went for Cronje obviously because he hasn't played a lot, and he's a very good player. I like Elric.
Yeah. At 15, I have Mafura because Hornet, he's played too much URC.
Yeah.
That came up a lot of times now. We're worried about Quayne Horn because that guy is in every game.
I've also got him. Definitely Bapura.
Yeah. Same here.
Coming with the bench, I'm going to take like 3 players at a time. So it doesn't take that much time to get through everything. 16, Kotze, because he played a bit less than Skuman for me, the game I've watched. Then the toy, going to be a gamble on hooker there, because there's no Versaghi, no PJ Botha on my side. And then Van Vieren as well, because Van Vieren, haven't seen a lot of him as well.
Mm. Well, I went Jacques-Louis Dutoit at hooker, Sebastian Lombard at loosehead, and then Mabeke, who has come up through our juniors as well, at tight head. Bit of a risk because then you have 2 really young tight heads. But, I think we do need to blood these guys at some point. What I might do is, you have either Van Vuren or RF Skuman play, and then maybe he's on the bench and you swap between Pullman and Mabeke in terms of who starts, so that, we have a bit of youth and experience.
I concur, God said the way from fear, and that's my guys that I was having. Also, like you were saying, somewhere the guys have to have chance to play, so yeah, I'll also put them there.
90, 19, 20, and 21, I've got that new lock that we bought, Schloblom. I think I pronounced it right. The new guy, yes, let's start him off of the bench. Goma, I'm taking Goma because he can cover so many positions. He can cover both flanks, and I think we used him at 8th man as well in 1 game or 2 games. And then Pete, that's going to be the only cover I have for Horn at scrum half because Krapis is not there, and I do not have Nico Stein there as well.
Yeah, I had Tian Vessels for 19, Siba Mahashe, because he covers all loose trio positions, and then Pete.
Yeah, I've also got Shoblom, Kuma, and Pete. And like I said, just especially with Kuma there, I said that he will be on backup. And the same with the province guy, the Pete, from the junior box. I'll keep him there.
It seems to me like most of us went for the 6-2 split. Sounds like it.
To be
Well,
honest, I didn't even take it in that way. But yeah, that I didn't even go that far to check it in that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. At 22 and 23, I have Gianni Lombard simply because he started the season so good, got injured, and we haven't seen him yet. And he's covered for the Bela, he's covered for Mafura. So that's a utility. Need to have a guy like that. And then I have Bronson Mills. Same thing, cover for center and also another cover for Dobela. So there's in my sheet there's three potential fly-offs. So if one slips out, there will be two other.
see, I put in Francis and Impeco because Francis can cover for Dobella, and if Mafura gets injured, you shift Dobella to 15, and then Francis is 10. And then Impeco because he can cover center and the wings.
I also went for Lombard and Mills. And actually, now that you mentioned Francis, I completely forgot about Francis. So, and I did say that my team will change every week. It's still, I think, 3 weeks before the Curry Cup. But it's actually also a guy that I'll bring in the mix. I put in Lombard again. The Curry Cup will suit him well. Fast, explosive. He's gonna have a good season in the Curry Cup, and also for the kicking duties. I think he's very good in the kicking duties. And then also the way that you talked about Moles just now, I think because the last 3-4 games in the URC, he had a good run, and it was almost like, okay, this was our missing X factor. Maybe I'll also start with the Moles there, and like you said, he can also captain the team. So yeah, I've also got Moles in the mix there.
Great stuff, great stuff. Basically, 70% of the teams are exactly the same. You can take 90% is the same. Either one is starting, one is benching. It's just a little bit of a swap around. But before we
Yeah.
go, I have to ask you guys: Lions tour coming up 20 June against Argentina. Any predictions?
I mean, Lions should take it in part because most of them have been in camp for a while now. I think they would have brought in who they could already, whereas with Argentina, I'm not 100% sure, especially because they've got guys all over the show, if they've been in camp all that much. So, yeah, I think also, and it's no offense to Argentina, they're definitely solid, but I think British and Irish Lions team should beat them. I think it will be narrow, though, but they should manage to get past them.
If the Lions put in the best team available and the day, and they're not trying to experiment because they tours actually with Australia, and it depends who they will put in, in the mix during the day against Argentina. But I'll also go with the Lions on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Lions. Lions by, let's say, 8. Reason being, Argentina lost Creevy. That's a huge blow for Argentina. I mean, that guy's been captain for how many years now? He led that Argentina. Even if they were down to the dumps and that guy came off the bench and he went on that field, Argentina is going to give everything. And I haven't heard about any changes other than him. I hope guys like Buffelli and those, they don't retire soon. I don't know if you guys hear any other Argentina players that went on retirement.
No.
No, also not.
Interesting thing. I think. Do you guys know maybe Matera will play? I mean, it's national duty, so he will step out from. Yeah, he will slip out probably from Super Rugby and slot into Argentina.
But also, I mean, which Super Rugby team is he in currently?
Crusaders.
Oh, then no, because I mean they're playing the final.
That's why I'm
So
asking. Do you guys think
yeah,
he's
no, I think he's going to have to play for the club, especially because this technically falls outside of the international window. So unless the club releases him, which I don't think they will, not for a final.
Yeah, true. They don't have to.
Mm.
There's no obligation to do
so,
it. Like you said, outside the window.
so that's two hard blows for Argentina that we know of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good luck to them. And I would like to see what they do against Argentina, because the last three tests they play against Australia, they're going to be warm up, because they're going to, not every game they're going to play with this full strength team, but at least I don't think they're going to gamble too much with Argentina.
Yeah. Yeah, especially because they've then got some of the franchises and that. So, that's where they can field like a very experimental team, and it's okay. And then, they know they're sorted for the actual tests.
Don't they actually play like something like nine
Sure.
games?
Yeah,
That's
it's a
a
lot.
lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, let's wrap this up. Thank you for
All
coming.
right. Thank you.
I'm
And
gonna
then, yeah.
upload the last week one now. I finished
Oh,
it
right.
before the podcast, so I'm gonna upload it now. So we're 1 week behind.
Ah. No problem.
Thanks
And
a
then,
lot. It was been
yeah.
nice.
And
Always nice.
And
yeah.
don't forget, next week's gonna be the Springbok one, eh? The team
Yes.
selection of the Springboks.
Okay.
Our own perspective, not what we
Yeah.
think Rati's gonna do or what you as an individual would like to see.
Yeah. But suggestion would be let's try do our squads in that just probably before noon on Tuesday, to have them ready, even if we don't post them. Just because, sometimes Rusty does the whole thing of posting the team on a Tuesday afternoon already. So if he's going to stick with that, then by the time we meet, team will already be out.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But we're playing the Barbarians on 28th.
Yeah.
Is it next week?
So
No.
follow.
Because this weekend is the 20th, so it's next Saturday.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, so I
Sure.
hear what you're saying. So if he does it on a Tuesday, then we'll have the podcast on a Wednesday. Yeah, it's gonna be too early. Let's
Yeah.
make it like this. We give it Monday. Monday at the
Yeah. Okay.
latest, we send it on the group, and then we discuss just the team selection. Whether a player didn't make the cut of the official team, that's fine. We discuss it anyway.
Yeah. Sounds good.
No, we do it like
100%.
that. Okay, julle lekker aand.
All right. Have a good night, guys, and we'll chat next week.
Sure, guys. Keep well. Thanks.
Cool. You too.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.